Hello and welcome back. Today we will talk about Microsoft Power Query. Microsoft Power Query is one of the most exciting tools available that is being offered by Microsoft in the ETL section. ETL stands for Extract, Transform and Load, and the other tools available are Python and RScript. Today we will go through the basic structure of Power Query, how to load it, how to load an Excel file in it, the overall interface of it. So let's jump right into it and let's take a look. We start by opening up an Excel file. I have already loaded in a file, it's named blank. We click on the data tab and we can see that we have two available sections for Power Query. One is get and transform data, the other is queries and connections. The get and transform data lists us the connectors we can use. Some of the most useful connectors are available on the face of this tab, so from text, from CSV, from web, and the more detailed options are available in the get data section. So we click on this, we can find out more options. So from file we can load from Excel, CSV, XML, JSON, PDF. We can also connect it to a SQL database or Azure. We can also check out other sources, so these are more details from table, from web. We can also write out a blank query and then write out M code by scratch. M code is a language Power Query is using behind the screens. Okay, you can either load in the Power Query editor by connecting it to a specific file or connector, or you can launch it directly from Get Data, launch Power Query editor. Let's do that, and let's get an overall feel of the Power Query editor and its structure, how it's based. So we can see that we have four main tabs available. One is Home, Transform, Add Column, and View. So your most used three tabs will be Home, Transform, and Add Column. The Home tab lists us some basic functionality like sorting columns, sorting rows, splitting, grouping, appending, and merge. Then you have a Transform tab where you can change data types, merge columns, do some more transformations to your data. And lastly, if you want to add new columns, you can use this tab to add new column by going to many different options. One thing you will note that the Power Query editor design is very similar to the Excel ribbon. This is so that it's easier for new users, and since the view is very similar, the learning curve will be a bit less as well. On the left side we see there is a queries section, and it's right now in the square bracket it says 0, so it's obviously 0 because we do not have any queries loaded up right now. One thing to note is you can also load in a query or create a query from within the Power Query editor using new source here. Keep in mind that these options are limited compared to what the options are available in the get data section. So let's cross out of this one and move to this one. Firstly, we would look at the actual data that is available. So we open the stocks file which we are going to work with today. So let me pull it up here. So stocks data. So we have two tabs available in this file. So one is w_table and one is w_table. This is just some sample data for stocks for a specific period. So this one is a very simple data. In the next tab we have the same data, but this is in a table format. And if you want to look at the table name, you go to table design and you can look at the table name, which is stocks_table. So let's close up this file and let's load up this file within the Power Query editor. So we say get data from file, from Excel workbook, and let's trace where this file is. So it's here, and then you click on stocks data and it will create a connection and it will show you the navigator tab. So it has multiple options here. You can select multiple items. You can see that it's giving out the file name, which is correct, stocks_data.xlsx. And here it's important to note that it's showing us three items. So two of these items are worksheets or tabs, and the third item is a table. It's evident by its name, and secondly you can tell it by the blue line going on the top of the table. This shows that this is a table. So this thing and w_table and stocks_table, this is on the same tab. So let's click on this and we can see that Power Query is showing us a quick preview of this data. You cannot really change any data here. It's just showing you some data. From here you can either load the Power Query, create a connection and load the data directly to an Excel table, or you can transform data and do some transformation to it in the Power Query editor. Ideally you would always want to click on transform data so you can make changes to it or make adjustments to it. But for now let's click on load and let's see what happens. So we click on load. It has created a new query and it is returning all of the data that is available in the stocks table. So this is the table it has created. It will have an option for refresh. So let's say if you change some data in the main table of the source table, this will reflect automatically. In the queries and connections, you can see that it has now one query listed here. It says stocks underscore table, this is the query name, and it says 505 rows loaded. The connections is empty. So let's delete this query for now. So we right click it and we say delete. Alright, so keep in mind that the query is now deleted. It says 0 queries, but the table is still there. But one thing to note is that this will not have a refresh option now because we don't have this query connected to the actual source file anymore. So in order to delete it, we will just remove the whole tab. We do that by doing Alt-EL. We delete this tab and we load this again, and now we will click on transform data. So let's load this again. Click on the table name and we click on transform data. So we can see that a new query has been created. The query name is stocks underscore table. Ideally you would always want to give it a good query name, so we'll say, let's say stocks underscore query. Press enter and you can see that it has updated the query name here. We now have a formula bar visible as well. So if you want to drop down and see what's going on here, you can see it from here. You can also see that it has automatically applied 3 steps. If you want to see the details of what's going on in each step, you can click on the step and get details for it. Some of the steps will have a gear icon next to them, this small icon. If you click on it, you will have more options available or advanced options to work through. To give a basic idea of what these steps are doing, so the source step is bringing all of the items. So it brought in 2 worksheets, so it says kind sheet, and the third one it's saying kind as table, and it's giving out the name here as well. In the navigation tab, it has selected the item we selected in the navigation section. So we selected the table, stocks on table, says kind table, and then square bracketed, it's extracting the data from that table. And then in the third tab, it's automatically changing the type for all of the columns, and Power Query is guessing the type for all of the columns. Ideally you would always want to remove this step and then perform this action manually, because you would always know what column should be what data type. You can turn off this option from going options, query options. Then in the global settings, you will go to data load and says never detect column types and headers for unstructured sources, and click on OK. Alright, so this wraps up this video on Power Query. As a recap, we looked at the absolute basics of Power Query and how to navigate the ribbon tab and finally end up loading an Excel file. If you like the video, please click like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thank you.